I'm going to be talking about a global opportunity and a global workshop. Hey, time is irrelevant. So this one is about the Fearless Public Speaking one-day video webinar workshop. So let's get straight into it in terms of timing and kind of what's coming next. So in terms of what we're going to be covering on this live stream, we're going to look at what is the program and who is it for. We're going to look at some of the reasons why you might want to attend and just kind of pinpoint if it's right for you. We're going to talk about ways that people have gone from fearful to fearless in terms of their public speaking, in terms of their presenting. I'm going to give you an overview of the one-day video webinar workshop so you get a sense of what we're going to be covering on the day. Talk a bit about myself and how I got into doing what I'm doing. We'll start with that and then we'll go into a little bit more of the background a bit later on. Going to share with you some client results and testimonials and also next steps if you want to join us live, and also some coming attractions because we've got some new things happening very, very soon. So I'm excited about that. Now, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, if you have any queries, you can post those into the chat. I will cycle back partly through this webinar, but also what you can do is rest assured that over the next couple of days I'll cycle back through that as well and I'll answer any questions or queries that you have. So we will do that. So in terms of results, and one of the reasons why this is one of my absolute favorite topics to talk about, speak about, write about, teach and train, is because what you can see on the screen, for those of you who are looking at the screen, I'm the little pink dot on the stage where you can see the me arrow. And then, of course, that's the crowd. And I used to be someone who was terrified of public speaking. Just to go from that to where I am now and what I do now, even sometimes it kind of blows my mind. So the picture you're looking at now is me speaking at Kensington Olympia in London on behalf of Psychologies magazine, because for many years I worked as a media expert for the magazine and doing live radio, live shows and events, all sorts of things for them. So that's kind of what you can see on the screen. And that's what we're going through. In a nutshell, for those of you I've never met before, I'd done live television. My very first live TV appearance was with a couple of hours notice. I didn't even realize, I thought I was going into the studio to have a look around. I didn't realize we were going to be broadcasting my first live show. It was called the Life Success Show on Sky TV. And so I used to do that live on a Saturday morning. Lots of live radio, keynote sessions, hosting and emceeing other people's events, running webinars and teleseminars, designing and delivering corporate trainings, workshops, away days, executive coaching programs, you name it. Kind of, I've done it. The most recent thing I've done with BBC Radio is an interview with them talking about Love Island and mental health and the connections to that. Actually, what I'll probably do, if anyone wants it, let me know. I've got the link, so I can send you the link if you want to listen to that. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. We'll come back to that. Also do fun things like interviewing other people. So this is me here with the lovely Bruce Lipton. He's amazing. If you've ever met Bruce, you'll know what a sweetheart he is, in addition to all of that wonderful knowledge. And this is something that I did a couple of weeks ago, hosting and emceeing the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution. So you've got Joe Dispenza there on the corner, just getting ready to speak. You've got people like Lynn McTaggart, Greg Braden, Nassim Harriman, you name it, they're all on that stage. And so I host and MC that for the 3 days that it runs. And this is the 3rd year I've MC'd it now. So a real variety of things that I get up to. And I'd say this is another one of those programs where it does what it says on the tin. So I created this graphic for a teleseminar webinar that I did last week. And it's a new program that's coming up, the transformation program. But that's one of the ways my clients describe that program in there. It does what it says on the tin, and her life is transformed. And this one will be the same. And because I know that it is possible to go from terrified and hating it to absolutely loving it and being excited about public speaking and looking forward to doing it. So let's give you an overview of the one-day video webinar. It talks about, of course, how to go from terrified to loving public speaking. I'm going to share with you the 5-step process that you can use to structure any talk or presentation. And also the 5th component is a really incredible, fantastic, amazing way to create a connection with your audience. And I'll say a little bit more about that when we look at the testimonials. We're also going to look at, of course, how to calm your nerves and anxiety, because best will in the world, you can know what to do, you can know how to structure the information. However, if you're not calm and relaxed, then all of that can go to pot. And I know that to be true because I had probably a good 10 years worth of presentation skills training. Now, this was training in terms of initially how to stand and position yourself by your OHP, i.e. overhead projector, how to work the slide carousel. So you didn't, seriously, we're going back in the day. And so I knew technically what to do. However, I still couldn't do it because of the nerves, because of the fear, because of the anxiety. And I used to get physical symptoms like the kind of, my throat would swell up, my tongue would quadruple in size, heart going, adrenaline pumping, and it was like a whiteout where I kind of almost lost my mind and I wouldn't know what to say. I guess the traditional term for that is the rabbit in the headlights. So the structure part is important, of course, and you've got to match that up with calming the nerves and all the rest of it in terms of your anxiety. And also we're going to look at some of the biggest what I call the unconscious saboteurs that can get in the way and sabotage you almost in the periphery. So we'll talk about how to identify those and what you can do to overcome that. We're also going to talk about how you can harness your physical and your mental energy so that it works with you and for you rather than against you, because most people are up against themselves and their physiology, and their mind does some really crazy stuff. We're also going to look at easy ways to deal with open forums and live questions, because I know oftentimes when I'm working with people, they will kind of go, oh, okay, if I can just put my PowerPoint slides up and just go through it and then just run off the stage. And the bit about dealing with questions, how to handle live questions, often terrifies people. So we're going to spend some time looking at that. I'm also going to introduce you to a system that helps you to remember, helps you to focus, and helps you to be able to articulate and share and put across what it is you know. And we're also going to maybe, and this is going to depend, I might just do it anyway as a bonus segment, I might even do it as a separate thing, but if there are people who have signed up for whom this is also relevant, because I've done quite a lot of training entrepreneurs and startups in terms of how to pitch and present when they're presenting to VCs and angel investors and that sort of thing, and how to get funding. So we might put some of those tips in as well. So that's what we're going to be covering. If you wanted to go over and have a look, the shortest link, because it's a really long page, is www.bit.ly/fearless public speaking. So that's where you can kind of find further information. So in terms of why you might want to attend, thinking about people who are scared of public speaking, people who are scared of Facebook Live, people who are fearful about even speaking up and contributing in meetings, which is also what I used to be like. This might be also people who have a message, you've got a message that you want to share, but you are procrastinating about getting out there and sharing it with people. There's also the people who are fearful and nervous and anxious at the mere thought of doing a presentation or doing a Facebook Live or presenting in a meeting. And for me, the whole thing about the meeting, it was really weird, because outside of the meeting room, these people were colleagues and some of them were actually really good friends, but suddenly they became like the spectre when it came to actually just basically, the worst one for me ever was, that's when I really knew I had a problem. I was organizing an international distributor conference out in Cyprus, and my boss, Glenn Ricketts, all he said to me was, Marilyn, can you come in to the meeting? We're having a sales meeting today. Come in and give the guys an update, because I'd gone over to do a ground check meeting. So I've been out in Cyprus to check out the venue, plan the events, get the itinerary sorted out. sort out all the ground crew, all of that sort of thing. And all he said to me was just come in and tell the guys who were my friends, who I'd socialize with and all that sort of stuff, come in and tell the guys where we're at with the trip, and also how many distributors we got signed up, because it would, you know, we had people flying in from Africa and Saudi and across Europe and America and Canada. And I was like, okay. And this was in the day we just got Lotus Notes, because my trick used to be, if somebody asked me to present, I would say yes, then I would go back to my desk diary and I'd write an appointment in the diary, and then I would phone them up and go, I'm so sorry, I've just got back to my desk, I've got an appointment in the diary. And they go, oh, no worries, we'll find someone else. Cool. Now we got Lotus Notes. I've got to be back in the day to know what I'm talking about there. So we get Lotus Notes. So Glenn has already seen that my diary is clear. So he's put the meeting in my diary. So now I can't wheedle out of it. I'm like, oh, God. So anyway, fine. The day of the meeting comes, and I went to ring a woman called Rashmi who worked in accounts. So I dialed the number. She answers, and I went, and my voice had gone. Just genuinely, my voice has gone. I said, oh, I'm going to have to call you back. So, you know, what's going on? So Glenn comes out and said, are you ready for the meeting? I said, my voice has gone today. I could barely speak. It was, you know. And so Glenn said, okay, give me your notes and, you know, the files, and I'll give the guys a run through, or there was another kind of lovely lady. I wonder if she's still with them. No, actually. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But so he said he might get Louise to do it, or, you know. So he goes off, and I'm at my desk working away. I remember glancing at the clock, and it's something like 12:15, whatever it was. And so there's only 15 minutes of the meeting left. My phone rang. I went to answer, and my voice was absolutely fine. I'm like, oh my God, this is weird. What happened? But then, because now if when they come back my voice is fine, I'm going to be rumbled that, and they're then going to think I did it on purpose because I didn't want to present, and yada yada yada. And so for the rest of the day I had to talk like this and pretend that my voice was fit. By the end of the day, my vocal cords, my throat was so sore, I really genuinely could barely talk. But that was one of those kind of defining moments where I'm like, geez, there really is a problem here. That my body is even turning on me at the thought of having to speak. And, you know, and again, this is for people also maybe where you've practiced and you practice and you practice like I did in terms of my position, the OHPs and yada, 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 and it's still not making perfect. You know, it's still like, ah. And also for those who feel sick at the thought of having to speak in public, because I know often when people come to me, they will have physical symptoms and physical reactions to that. So if you're someone who feels nervous, if you're someone who wants a speaking engagement is in the diary, it keeps you up at night, because I've had clients who will not be able to sleep, and sometimes if they know about it weeks or months in advance, then it disturbs their sleep for that amount of time. It's also if you are in a job or you're in a role or a position where an element of that you're required to present, you're required to speak, you're maybe even required to be the face of your organization. And I remember one of my very first assignments when I was a management consultant, I was at HM Treasury Department, and they had someone who was just so gifted and so talented, you know, done the Oxford, Cambridge, whatever it was, and was a really good statistician, a really good economist. However, his role included going out networking, speaking on behalf of the Treasury Department, explaining the facts and the figures. Couldn't do it, completely terrified. So I was brought in to do a series of executive coaching sessions with him. And I remember some of that mind map to the day. So he was coming up with some reasons and what you might call excuses. And also about, you know, and I just said, well, tell me about your role, tell me about what you do. And he said, oh, it's not necessarily very easy to explain, and yada, yada. And while he was sitting, I just had my notepad, and I was just mind mapping while he was talking. So I let him finish, and I said, okay, can I just share a few things with you? I basically just read back the mind map, and he looked at me and he's like, oh my God, Marilyn, you sound like an economist. And I remember drawing on the mind map, I drew like a triangle with 3 pillars to represent the 3 pillars. I drew some coins with a euro sign, because this is when the euro was just starting to kind of come into play and take shape. And, you know, there were various things that I drew, and I was able basically to sound like someone who knew his job. And what I wanted to demonstrate there was how easy it is to capture the information, and how easy it is to structure, and how easy it is to feed it back. So we do the session, we work on his, oh, thank you for that message, I'll check it out. And we work on his structure and all the rest of it, and also how to break the ice, because he said often you go to networking events and people are in groups and clustered. So we gave him some strategies around that. I went back to do, I think it was the third session, and he's like, Marilyn, so it's going really well. I'm at the events, I'm, you know, networking, I'm really feeling confident. He says, how do I get rid of people, because they all now want to talk to me? And so we then had to do a session on how you can politely extricate yourself and get away and end a conversation. So the problem no longer was getting him to speak. It's now about, oh my God, you know, there's this and there's this. And so wanting to close things down a bit so he could then, you know, move on to the next person, because people were finding him so fascinating that they wanted to continue the conversation. Whereas previously it was like, hi, and yeah, okay. And then just, you know, standing around doing nothing. So that was an interesting one. But a big part of his role, they took him on for his brain and his skill and his expertise, but then realized, well, hey, a big part of this role, we need you to be out there and be able to talk to people. So if you're in that position, it'll be great for that as well. If you're, because this is streaming now to Facebook, so if you're someone where the thought of doing a Facebook Live is like, oh my God, and you're filled with dread, because I'm in a lot of groups and I see a ton of conversations where the challenge is to do a Facebook Live, and then people are, oh my God, I nearly did it, and then I sat and I didn't know what to say. So we'll talk about the strategies for doing those as well. And also you may be in the position, you might be one of those people who knows there are massive benefits to being able to share and articulate and teach and train, and you are still putting it off. So that's really kind of the demographic I'm looking at for this one. And it's also for those who want to be more eloquent, for those of you who want to feel much more calm and much more relaxed and much more centered when you're presenting. It's also for those who want to find ways to be even more authentic and have a deeper kind of connection with your audience. We're going to be going to the wow factor, and I'm going to share with you one of those two of those wow factor stories when we talk about the testimonials. And also you just maybe just want to enjoy speaking and actually look forward to it. So that's really kind of what we're going for. In terms of how the one-day workshop is delivered, this is one that I've run countless times. You know, it's one of the firm favorites when I became a management consultant back in 2003. It's had various names. Normally it was called the public speaking skills workshop because you're in a corporate environment. If I was being a little bit fancy, I'd call it presenting with confidence. But, you know, generally this is, you know, we're going to do the same as I would do on those trainings. Well, not exactly the same, because sometimes they were 2 or 3 day trainings. But this one is going to be online. So it's online. It's delivered via video webinar, a bit like this same platform I'm using now, in fact. It's going to be live in the first instance. So at the moment, I'm broadcasting in my webinar room. I haven't got any attendees here because I've just decided to do this thing 10 minutes ago. And so there's no one in the webinar room. But if you were on the program, you would be in the webinar room with me. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about what that looks like in a moment. And if you missed the live event, there's going to be a replay recording. And also for those of you who don't have a brilliant internet connection, you can also dial in as well. So you can be watching and hearing what I'm saying on the phone. So there are options. Let me just show you what the webinar platform looks like. So this is my view at the moment. You don't see the black panel down the side. Depending on whether or not I open the public chat, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So you've got the chat, which is open, but we've also got the Q&A. So I have the option of opening the chat or just having the Q&A. The Q&A is private. It just comes to me because sometimes people don't want to share all the stuff that's going on for them. So what you will be seeing is basically what you're seeing now. We'll have the PowerPoint slides for whatever the idea, the strategy, the thing is that I'm teaching. And then you'll see me on video. And if there's an open chat, then you'll be able to chat with the other participants as well. So that's what the video webinar platform looks like that you will be signing into. In terms of the workshop components and what we're going to be doing, they're going to be group presentations via PowerPoint, much like you're looking at now. the audio and video presentation so you can see me and hear me. We're going to have the online chat, and I'll check with people if they want that on or off. We're going to have the private Q&A, so you can always be sending things and your comments, your questions, your shares in confidence. And of course, I'm not going to, if you sent it via the Q&A, I'm not going to say who you are. I'll just be going through the comments and answering the questions. We're going to do some experiential sessions. We're going to do some guided processes, because that's really what we're going to be looking at when we're clearing out the old thoughts and patterns and limiting beliefs. We're going to do some written exercises, because I'm going to get you to actually structure and design and create a presentation while we're on the webinar. We're also going to have a bit of home play and also some video demo sessions. So I'll put a star by those because I'll tell you more about that when we're in the webinar. So I'm going to leave that for now in terms of what that is all about and what that entails. And of course, as usual, we're drawing on all of the magical components